Welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I am Hira Mustafa and these are the headlines. In Pakistan, the army has killed 4 terrorists while thwarting a raid on a post in the northern Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. The military's media wing says 4 Pakistani soldiers embraced martyrdom during the encounter in South Waziristan district. Those martyred include Lance Naik Imran Ali, Sepoy Atif Jahangir, Sepoy Anisur Rahman and Sepoy Aziz. The U.S. aid agency is redirecting $42.5 million in assistance away from Myanmar's government following the coup. And Facebook says it will reduce the distribution of Myanmar military's content, saying that they spread misinformation. Meanwhile, Myanmar's military has remitted the sentences of more than 23,000 inmates, including foreigners. Turkey says it will not back down from its purchase of the Russian S-400 defense systems despite U.S. sanctions. In an interview, a presidential spokesperson said Ankara wants to resolve issues with NATO allies through dialogue. The European Parliament has called on member states to ban arms sale to Saudi Arabia and the UAE over the Yemen crisis. A joint motion adopted by the Parliament called for holding all perpetrators of severe human rights violations to account. Australia's second most populous state of Victoria has entered a 5-day lockdown again after a new COVID-19 cluster outbreak. Mexico has reported 10,000 new cases and more than 1,400 fatalities overnight. The nationwide death toll has crossed 171,000. Meanwhile, Pakistan registered 1,270 new infections and 33 more COVID-19 fatalities in the last 24 hours, while the country's death toll has exceeded 12,000. Globally, the virus has claimed 2.36 million lives and infected over 107 million people. Bayern Munich beat Mexico's Tigres UANL 1-0 to win the Club World Cup title and earn their 6th trophy in less than 9 months. Benjamin Pavard scored in the 59th minute in front of 12,000 spectators to secure victory for Bayern. Well, these were the headlines. News in detail coming after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back, and now the news in detail. In Pakistan, the army has killed 4 terrorists while thwarting a raid on a post in the northern Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. The military's media wing says 4 Pakistani soldiers embraced martyrdom during the encounter in South Waziristan district. Those martyred include Lance Naik Imran Ali, Sepoy Atif Jahangir, Sepoy Anisur Rahman and Sepoy Aziz. The military said sanitization of the area is underway. Earlier on February 3rd, security forces killed 4 terrorists during an operation in North Waziristan district. Protesters are back on the streets in Myanmar, demanding an end to the military coup and the release of political leaders. Hundreds of separate marches have been held in Yangon alone as people mark the Union Day as a public holiday. For the past 7 days, protests have continued in the face of tear gas, rubber bullets and water cannons from security forces. The U.S. aid agency is redirecting $42.5 million in assistance away from Myanmar's government. In a statement, the agency said it will continue to support the people of Myanmar with $69 million in bilateral programs. And Facebook says it will reduce the distribution of Myanmar military's content, saying they spread misinformation. In a statement, the company said it has also suspended the ability for government agencies to send content removal requests. Meanwhile, Myanmar's military has remitted the sentences of more than 23,000 inmates, including foreigners. Turkey says it will not back down from its purchase of the Russian S-400 defense systems despite U.S. sanctions. In an interview, a presidential spokesperson said Ankara wants to resolve issues with NATO allies through dialogue. Ibrahim Kalin warned against any expectations of a quick solution to the issue. He asserted that advances can be made if parties read the strategic picture the right way. Kalin also called on the U.S. to end support of a Kurdish militia that Ankara has designated as a terrorist group. Earlier, U.S. State Department spokesperson Ned Price urged Turkey not to retain the purchase. The European Parliament has called on member states to ban arms sale to Saudi Arabia and the UAE. A joint motion adopted by the Parliament called for holding all perpetrators of human rights violations in Yemen to account. It called for the EU global human rights sanctions regime to be deployed to impose targeted sanctions. The motion also recalled Germany's ban on arms sale to Saudi Arabia and Italy's ban to the UAE and Saudi Arabia. Brussels also welcomed Washington's decision to halt arms sale to Riyadh and to suspend the transfer of F-35 jets to Abu Dhabi. Lawmakers said some other European countries are also planning to join the ban. Australia's second most populous state of Victoria has entered a fifth-day lockdown again after a new COVID-19 cluster outbreak. Mexico has reported 10,000 new cases and more than 1,400 fatalities overnight. The nationwide death toll has crossed 171,000. Globally, the virus has claimed 2.36 million lives and infected over 107 million people. Details in the following report.
The fight against COVID-19 is getting more complicated by the day. Brazilian officials say the variant identified in the country's Amazon region can be 3 times more contagious than the previous ones. Meanwhile, indigenous leaders have warned of evangelical missionaries turning Amazon villages against COVID-19 vaccines. In the United States, an official panel of experts examining the previous administration's pandemic policies says 40% of the deaths from COVID-19 could have been averted. President Joe Biden also slammed the Trump administration for not ordering enough doses and mobilizing people to administer vaccines.
It's no secret that the vaccination program was in much worse shape than my team and I anticipated. We were under the impression and been told that we had a lot more resources than we did when we came into office. While scientists did their job in discovering vaccines in record time, my predecessor, be very blunt about it, did not do his job in getting ready for the massive challenge of vaccinating hundreds of millions of Americans.
British-Swedish biopharmaceutical company AstraZeneca says production of vaccine against the new COVID-19 variants can take 6 to 9 months. However, people who have received 2 doses of the Pfizer vaccine showed strong immune responses against the Kent and South African variants. South Africa is set to start vaccinating millions against the local variant with the Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson vaccines. New Zealand will also start vaccinations for border staff from next Saturday.
This morning, I can confirm that New Zealand's first batch of the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine is set to arrive in New Zealand next week, well within our scheduled timeframe and ahead of previous expectations. That means we should be in a position, all things going to plan, to start vaccinating our border workers from next Saturday, the 20th of February.
Germany has decided to ban travel from the Czech Republic and Austria over the surge of infections in more contagious variants. Over in France, the British variant of COVID-19 now accounts for almost a quarter of all new infections.
Pakistan has recorded 33 deaths from COVID-19 overnight, pushing the toll to 12,218. The health ministry recorded 1,270 new infections over the past 24 hours. The ministry said out of 560,000 nationwide infections so far, more than 518,000 people have recovered. There are currently nearly 30,000 active COVID-19 cases in the country. The ministry says over 1,700 patients are in a critical condition. In Pakistan, the multinational joint naval exercises are underway for the second day in the northern Arabian Sea next to the port city of Karachi. The 7th edition of the drills Gunmen 21 comprises of the navies from 45 countries. Navies from the US, China, Russia and Turkey are convening for the first time in a decade. The Gunmen series this year is titled as Together for Peace. Organized by Pakistan, the drills aim to foster international cooperation to fight piracy, terrorism and other crimes. The drills will continue till February 16th. Pakistan's naval chief says Gunmen 21 will help bridge gaps between participating nations. Pakistan and Turkey are conducting a joint military exercise at the SSG headquarters in Terbila, some 105 kilometers northeast of Islamabad. More in this report by our correspondent Sumaira Khan.
The 3-week-long drills titled Ataturk 11 began earlier this week. Ankara and Islamabad have increased defense and military cooperation in recent years.
The
main purpose of these exercises is that the armies of both Pakistan and Turkey, who are fighting the scourge of terrorism, share the experience they have gained in this fight. So, when a joint exercise is held, we learn from the experiences of each other. Pakistan and Turkey have vast experience, especially the armed forces of Pakistan, including and in particular the special forces, in the fight against the scourge of terrorism. The experiences we have gained from this fight and the experiences our brotherly country Turkey and their special forces have gained in the fight against terror are exchanged when we hold these drills.
Pakistan Army says the joint drills will bolster ties between the two countries.
Turkey चूँकि defense production में बहुत काम कर रहा है.
Turkey is working a lot in defense production, so the different things they are producing and their use are things that we will keep in our focus. The aviation and special forces will share different drills with them. God willing, the armed forces of Pakistan and the special service group are always ready to face the scourge of terrorism.
The drills are focusing on counter-terrorism, cordon and search, fire and move techniques and close-quarter battle. Helicopter repelling, compound clearance and free-fall operations are also part of the exercise. The significance of this 11th Ataturk special military exercise between Pakistan and Turkey is both the countries hold these exercises despite the prevailing pandemic, but keeping all the SOPs in place. Apart from this exercise, Pakistan is going to hold another 25 special military exercises with different countries in 2021. Sumaira Khan, Indus News, SSG Headquarter, Terbila.
In Afghanistan, unknown gunmen have attacked a UN convoy on the outskirts of Kabul, killing 5 Afghan security personnel. Afghan Interior Ministry says the security team was escorting UN vehicles when they came under attack. The ministry blamed the Taliban for carrying out the attack, but a spokesman for the group said they had nothing to do with the attack. Violence across Afghanistan has escalated even as the Taliban and the Afghan government hold peace talks in Qatar. Several residents gathered in the Canadian city of Regina in solidarity with the farmers protesting in India. They urged Ottawa to speak out against the human rights violations during the demonstrations in India. Meanwhile, Congress leader Rahul Gandhi is going on a tour of Rajasthan today, where he will address a rally of farmers. This comes as the farmer unions announced to intensify the movement in the coming days. A grand meeting and a public rally will be held in Maharashtra on February 20th. The farmers have been at the borders of Delhi for 77 days, demanding the rollback of laws they say will jeopardize their livelihoods. More than 200 protesting farmers have died during the demonstrations, including 4 who committed suicide. More news stories coming up after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Qatar and Turkey have agreed to support the interim government in Libya. Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu and his Qatari counterpart held a joint press conference in Doha. Cavusoglu said both Ankara and Doha are assessing how they can support the new Libyan administration. A UN-led forum selected Mohammed Al-Manfi as Presidency Council's interim head and Abdul Hamid Dibeibe as interim Prime Minister. Qatar's Foreign Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani hoped it will lead to the formation of a government soon. Meanwhile, in an interview, Turkish presidential spokesperson said Turkish troops in Libya will remain there. Ibrahim Kalin added Ankara will maintain its presence in Libya as long as a bilateral military agreement is active. Ireland has called on the EU and Britain to dial down the rhetoric in a blame game over post-Brexit trade frictions. This comes after Brussels rejected most of London's demands for easier trade with Northern Ireland. Irish Prime Minister Michael Martin said some European states in particular need to cool it. In an interview, Martin said Dublin wants the UK aligning well with the bloc. Earlier, the Commission sought to prevent coronavirus vaccines from moving across the open border between Ireland and Northern Ireland. It cited a shortfall of vaccines promised for the EU, but reversed the move after an uproar. At the issue is the Northern Ireland Protocol that seeks to preserve the open Irish border. In the United States, at least 6 people have died and dozens more injured after a massive car pileup on a Texas freeway. Officials say at least 130 cars were involved in the accident on interstate. They say 65 people are being treated in the hospital and officials fear more fatalities. Firefighters said rescue efforts near Fort Worth are underway, with search ongoing for people in need of assistance. The crash site stretches for 2.4 kilometers along the freeway. Police said ice appeared to have been a factor, but the investigation is still very preliminary. Amid lockdowns due to coronavirus all across the world, big crowds and street parades are banned this carnival season. But a DJ in the German city of Bonn is bringing the party right to people's doorstep. This report has more.
30 Minuten Karneval vor der Haustür.
DJ Ralph Noon's campaign is known simply as Crazy on Tour. The musician drives from house to house through the city streets and performs for residents for a short period. To achieve the goal of bringing people closer to the party atmosphere, Ralph converted his van into a carnival unit.
We don't have carnival in the Rhineland, so we thought about what we could do to bring the carnival a bit closer to the people. And then it occurred to me that I have a van parked in front of my house that hasn't actually been used all year. So we converted it into a small, how should I put it, a carnival unit, and bring the carnival to the people on their doorsteps, guerrilla style.
Ralph says since this year's carnival was called off, the idea came out of necessity. The moment he presses play, it takes very little for people to come out onto the streets and dance.
Unusual times call for unusual actions. I would say Corona compliant. Corona compliant, everyone is watching and everyone is in a fun mood. That's what you need these days.
The carnival DJ charges only $80 to go to anyone's home to play music for 30 minutes. He has already received 20 bookings this season so far and is ready to bring good vibes amid the doom and gloom of COVID-19.
Now moving on to the business stories, shares in Australia and Japan are struggling for gains due to low volume, as many markets in the Asia-Pacific are closed for the Lunar New Year holiday. Australia's benchmark ASX 100-200 dropped over 0.5%, with the financials, energy and materials sub-indexes struggling. The latest 5-day lockdown in the state of Victoria has also sent alarm bells ringing among investors. The Nikkei 225 in Japan has also declined marginally after markets opened following a public holiday. However, Tokyo's Topix index has managed to edge up above the flatline fractionally. Markets in Hong Kong, China and South Korea are closed today. Now it's time to have a look at the weather update across the globe. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.